All right, well, I'm still alive. Barely. Barely. Kind of cheating tonight, and I got a room on the way up north. I slept in the woods last night. It's Tuesday the 4th right now still. I slept in the woods last night, and man, did I ever have a sweaty day. Hiking up that frickin' mountain, so sweaty day, wet feet, and I got Sarah to call ahead and find me a room halfway on the trip. I need a shower. Needed a shower, so. But anyways, I got to go to one of my favorite places in the whole planet. Hiked up to the mountain, checked out my trail cameras, found some big bucks. Not enough snow there yet, pretty exciting. I could share some of that video here now. And then I put the 360 camera on my quad on the trailer. Once I hit the Duffy Highway, which should be called the Sasquatch Highway for real. Excuse me. And I hit record and started on my way. And I got to the other end of the lake on a very windy, narrow piece of road. And I come around the corner, and here's this low bed, tractor trailer low bed, hauling equipment, all the way in my lane, and I got nowhere to go, and he is flying. And he stuffed it over to his lane. And I actually just recalled I had the 360 camera going. I got it on video. That prick missed me by like, I swear to God, he missed the corner of my pickup by a foot. Maybe a foot. People, right? Holy cow. But anyway, I'm going to sit back and relax for a little bit and get some more people heard. I've got a whole bunch of emails not read in a folder I found in my notes. But anyways, I'm going to read this one. It wasn't marked as read. No title. Hi, Steve. My eventual husband, Dane, and I planned a hiking trip to Beck Meadows near the Sequoias in California in the early summer 1976. I was 19 and he was 23. We had a topo of the area, but beyond that, we were two dumb kids, ill-prepared for 3 days in the wilds. From the empty parking lot / trailhead, it was a 5-mile hike over a gap and back down to where, past the tree line, the trail opened up to a 20-plus mile long, a 4 or 5 mile wide prairie, largely tall grass, some brush, very few trees. And cattle, lots of cattle. Cattle as far as we could see. We planned to hike an additional 7 miles through the prairie on the first day and camp near a year-round stream that the rangers assured us was running. It was hot, around 90 degrees, and we were looking forward to finding the stream. And as it turns out, it was not only running, but was so grown... As it turns out, it was not only not running, but was so grown over that we walked right across it without noticing it. The topo began to make no sense, but we were determined to reach the stream and keep walking until the sun dipped beneath the surrounding mountains. We decided camping beside a small stand of scrubby bushes might keep us safe from the Brahma bulls and the coyotes who had already begun to howl. We rolled our sleeping bags out, ate a few granola bars, and fell into a deep, well-earned sleep. We woke to a quarter-inch of ice on the top of what little water we had left, and studying the topo, we realized that we had walked straight over the, quote, running, end quote, stream, and all in all had hiked a total of around 19 miles, instead of the planned 12, the day before. We heard what sounded like chainsaws and big motors running way further up the prairie and somewhere through the trees. Another 4 or 5 mile hike brought us to a rundown logging camp and several grizzled old-timers. They happily filled our water bottles up and advised us that the best and really only way out was back the way we had come. Now another 18 or so miles through our bovine friends to where we knew was the stream where we had dropped down onto the prairie the day before. So we were off, back the way we'd come. We reached that blessed stream near dark and set up our sparse camp in a clearing about 60 or 70 feet in diameter. There was a path down to the little stream. After starting a fire and eating a small hot dinner, we walked down to the stream to clean up. It was a moonless night and so dark that when Dane said, "Look up," I could see nothing until he shined his flashlight up into a solid ceiling of bats. Oh, no way. Crazy. Back in our sleeping bags on the bare ground, we fell into a dead sleep to the sound of crickets and night things. And then sometime later, Dane woke me gently and quietly said, "Shh, listen." It was eerily silent. But then I heard footsteps that seemed to come from the edge of the clearing. In the total blackness, we could see nothing. We didn't want to advertise our identity and exact location by shining a flashlight. It became absolutely clear that whatever was making its way around the clearing was walking on 2 legs. It was large and heavy, rustling through the leaves and snapping twigs and branches as it walked. We could almost feel the slow, heavy footsteps as they continued all the way around the clearing to where the path led to the stream and stopped. Dane and I were both in a state of shock and panic, trying not to make any sound as we tried to make sense of what was happening. Whatever was stalking us was definitely walking on 2 feet, but there was absolutely no reason for any sane person to be anywhere even close to this godforsaken, dried-up cattle range. Where we were at the time was no less than 5 miles away from any shred of civilization at the trailhead, and would have been a rough and pointless hike 5 miles in from that parking lot. We laid there frozen in terror for probably 20 minutes, in the total darkness, trying not to make any noise, breathing or rustling our sleeping bags. Then the heavy footsteps began again, this time circling the other way. The being, let's just say creature, slowly made its way all the way around the clearing. It seemed to take a very long time to completely circle us again. And once again it came to a halt near the path to the stream. We never heard another sound, including crickets or buzzing beetles. Even the coyotes were silent. We eventually fell asleep. It probably sounds ridiculous, but we had hiked something close to 45 miles in the last 2 days, and exhaustion overtook our fears. The next morning, we didn't even consider checking for footprints or any other signs of our night visitor. A fire, coffee, breakfast were also forgotten. We didn't say much, but quickly packed up camp, slung our backpacks on, and marched on untended blisters with 5 miles to our truck. That sucks. seeking the relative peace and serenity of our home in Los Angeles. Sally, now in Oregon. Keep up the good work, Steve. I'm glad to be able to share this without being judged. I look forward every day to your stories. Stay safe, my friend. And I've included a photo I found on the net, the closest to that I could find to the general look of the landscape in that area. I believe the photo was in the area of Beck Meadows, but not exactly where we were hiking. Beck Meadows is somewhere near the South Fork of the Kern River. All right, so you grab this off the internet. Check it out. Looks pretty open, except for once you get up in the hills there in the timber, right? So anybody else? Anybody else listening? Sound familiar? The South Fork of the Kern River? But knocks over. Huh. There you go. I don't envy you. I don't envy anyone who gets terrorized in a tent at night. It's a dirty pool. All right, I'm going to read one more. Starting to relax now. I better get to sleep here pretty quick. And of course, I think I pinched my Starlink cable and broke it, so I can't have internet. I'm hoping the next town up might have a new Starlink cable. If not, I'm hosed. No title in this email. Hi, Steve. My story is not as fascinating as your other stories, but it is true. I was not scared basically because I didn't know what it was. About 50 years ago is when it happened in a small town in Wisconsin. We lived in a tourist town, and most people will know where when you read this. Anyways, I was hanging out with some people I shouldn't have, but home life was not that great. My father was an alcoholic. Later in life, I found out that half the damn town was, so we were all basically about the same in this town. Back to my story. My dad was going to stop at the bar on his way home, and I was hanging out with some people on this hill across from this bar. My dad hollered my name, and I acted like I didn't hear him, which made him furious. So he proceeded to tell me to get my ass home before he did, and he had a car. Well, there was a body of water, like you said, and forest. Typo. My girlfriend and I started to run as fast as we could because we never knew if he was going to drive home now or later. We were hauling ass across the railroad tracks over the river. Then we cut off the railroad track to the woods. Mind you, we were hauling ass because we were scared, not sure for what, but as we cut off the railroad tracks running full blast, I ran square dead into something. It had white fur and was huge. I kind of bounced off this creature and kept running. I did not see a face. I was not looking for anything, but my life flashed right in front of me. Well, we made it to my house. I guess it was tired like us, and it did not chase us. When we made it home and finally stopped, both myself and my friend both questioned what we saw. It freaked us out totally. We knew it could not have been the Indians because it was late in the season, and they stuck close to home. Bigfoot did come out, but the fur in this thing was white, and it was not full grown. And needless to say, we never talked about it again. I never told anyone about my story until the other day when my sister came in and said, "What are you watching?" Well, it was your channel. I told her what it was, and she asked me if I ever saw one. And when I told her what happened, she was totally freaked out because she spent more time in Wisconsin than in Texas, where we are now. She asked me why I didn't tell anyone. I said, hey, I was only 14 years old. Who the hell would have believed me? That is all. And to this day, I do not know what that was. Have a safe and great life. And by the way, I love to camp, fish, and be in the woods. I never thought about that encounter anymore, and I'll leave it alone again now. Thank you for listening to me. Cindy Johnson, Texas. Cindy, appreciate that email. If you're still hanging out, let us know if you've seen that thing's face or any kind of a shape to its body, arms, shoulders, chest. And you're not the only one. We've had a lot of people email in, bouncing into them on trails. Excuse me, stepping on one over a fence, getting grabbed and tossed over a fence by one. On and on and on. What a crazy experience, right? Okay, I'm going to read one more. No title of this one. and not marked as read. Salutations, my friend. I love watching your videos and hearing the stories other viewers share. I've been hesitant to write you regarding something that happened to my cousin years ago. The main reason is he shared this with me about a month before a heart attack claimed his life, and I've held this information close ever since. Sorry to hear that. My cousin Brent moved to Redding, California to attend a Bible college at the age of 42. I honestly think his main intent was to fly fish and enjoy the outdoors much like we did as children, cousins, and his best friends growing up. He had his favorite spots, mostly remote rivers around the Mount Shasta region. And as you may know, this area is known for strange phenomena, so this story may not surprise most of your viewers. It was early June, and Brent wanted to go visit his favorite spot for steelhead and trout fishing. I am uncertain of the exact location because this happened nearly 9 years ago, and Brent is now with God. All I can remember is that he drove about an hour out of Redding, then had to hike 3 hours to the river valley he liked to fish. This was miles away from any residents or popular trails. I remember that much because he said he never once encountered another living soul in the 30 to 40 times he had been there. After finishing the hike in, he began to rig his fly rod and prep his gear for a few hours fishing. He knew he needed to be careful because there was no cell service nor any mapped roads that could lead to his location. So he always kept his head on a swivel, so to say. After about 20 minutes of prep, he was ready to wade out and begin his quest for a monster rainbow. He began wading out into the middle of the river when he suddenly felt the urge to run. His instincts kicked in, and he began scouring the tree line, riverbank, and surrounding terrain for bears. After a minute or so, he calmed down and began to fish again, although his instincts were still flushing through his body. It wasn't 10 minutes later that the same fight or flight feelings crept through his veins once more. He quickly reeled in his fly and prepped his rod for transit before turning around to walk through the river back to his pack. To his dismay, there was a young girl sitting on the rock next to where he left his pack and gear. Obviously, he was stunned to see a lone child in the middle of the wilderness, and he did not even know how to react. He made his way towards the riverbank, keeping an eye on the young girl, and by the time he reached the shore, she was gone. It was like she just vanished, and he began to question his sanity immediately upon reaching the gear. He checked the surroundings for nearly 30 minutes following the strange encounter, looking for tracks or a sign that someone had been near. He was so dumbfounded at what had happened, he did not want to leave until he had answers. He knows what he saw was real because he could describe physical features of the girl, her clothing, hair color, skin tone, and even race. If it weren't for what happened next, he would have concluded a family was camping nearby and his visitor was just a young explorer who happened onto this extremely remote location where my cousin liked to fish. After packing up and building the courage to hike out, Brent heard a horrific scream. Nothing human could have made the noise he described to me, and all of those instincts I mentioned before began to flood his mind and body once again. Excuse me. On top of that, he was certain someone was following him. He kept looking over his shoulder, expecting to encounter a bear or something worse. And in the haste of packing up, he left an old Case XX stag handle knife on the rock where he prepped to fish. He was not about to leave it behind because it was a gift from my father to him and had been his favorite fixed blade for most of his childhood and adult life. He mustered the courage to return to the riverbank, and just as he broke through the tree line, he saw something that terrified him more than anything he had ever seen before. In the exact spot where he saw this child was a 10-foot tall Sasquatch staring him down like it wanted to cause him harm. After about 20 seconds, he slowly walked backwards up the trail where he came, knowing that turning his back could cause whatever creature it was to attack. Backing up slowly, he never took his eyes off the Bigfoot. After what he assured was a minute of retreat, the creature stood up and calmly walked across the river, never to be seen again. I am the only living soul that ever heard that story. Mostly because Brent died about a month later after telling me. And I know there are supernatural forces at work around us, and Brent was convinced the child and the Bigfoot had some connection. Whether or not this is true, no one will ever know. I've been studying this subject for long enough to know that there is most likely a connection between the supernatural / spirit realm and these creatures. And it will always be a mystery to me on why this child was manifested prior to the encounter, but I cannot deny the connection. I love your work, your mission, and your transparency. Keep up the good work, and I wish you nothing but safety and well-being in your quest for truth and fun in the outdoors. Kind regards, Brian. Holy shit, Brian, that's a crazy-ass story, man. And I don't think we ever heard one. Well, I don't know. There's an old one that was written about in a few books. I got a full frog in my throat still from being sick for 3 weeks. Hacking stuff up. Sorry, you guys. Excuse me. But there's a story of a native guy who his dog went into a stump thinking he was going to flush a bear. The bear came out, shot it, and was a kid. Then the large female Sasquatch came over and grabbed the kid and looked at him and asked him, "Why'd you shoot my friend?" That's a long one. A long ago story I wrote about quite a few times. There's a truck driver near Hope, British Columbia, who's driving in a storm. Excuse me, sorry, my throat's driving me nuts. And he said it looked like a blonde, dirty woman with dirty blonde hair, not dirty as in a color, but dirty, but quite good looking, with an ugly, he said, 8-9 foot tall Sasquatch in the ditch in the pouring rain inside of the highway. She was with him. Who knows, right? Who knows? But anyway, I'm going to cut this short. I can't stand talking with this frickin' frog in my throat. And I got to get to bed, early to rise. I should be able to make it to where I'm going to camp tomorrow night, and then I'm going straight in the woods. And I'm going to hopefully take you guys with me. So there. Wish me luck. Email me at sharemystory@howtohunt.com, and let's hope I can find a Starlink cable somewhere on my journey tomorrow so I can stay online and stay in touch with Sarah and share some adventures with the world. Sharemystory@howtohunt.com. Get it to me, and I'll be back later, I hope. As long as I don't get pasted by a frickin' lowbad. Shit.